Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm here to do my second update for the end of summer mood reading. I've answered all the questions yet again. I am not doing this on purpose, I promise. It's just happening because some of the books I read are middle grade and I got through them quickly, okay? So don't judge me. And there's a couple of fairy tale retellings here that were short. So we're just gonna do this. Yeah. I'm still suffering from an ear infection, which turned into a double ear infection, so we'll see if I can get through this, because talking is painful, but the more books that I read, the more I have to talk about, so we're gonna try. So the first book I read in the second week of August was A Tangle of Iron and Feathers, Tales of Eukarya number 4. Who wrote this? By Sarah Baran. I gave this 4 stars. I heard about this series from Lindsay from Books for Christian Girls. It is a Mulan and Goose Girl retelling. So we have Milana. She's a twin, and she goes to war because her twin is not very healthy, and there's that of it. Mulan meets the Goose Girl. So the girl's name is Mulana. And then it kind of goes into the Goose Girl retelling later. After she comes back from war, she's asked to go to live in this other kingdom, and she gets betrayed along the way, and she has to be the Goose Girl, and she actually likes the prince she's supposed to marry. It's a whole thing. But he doesn't realize that he went to war with her, and yeah. It was a good read. I didn't enjoy it as much as the other 3 in the series because we didn't see them together very much. But it was still funny, and I really enjoyed her interactions with her brother, which is the quote that I'm going to give for this book, which is the first question. Name a good quote from this book. Comportment and cutlery. I suppose it's important to know not to stab someone during dinner. That was Milana's twin brother Lane making fun of her attempting to be a lady when she's never been a princess before, so that was funny. Next are a few Boxcar Children mysteries. That's why I was able to answer so many questions in a week. So the first one I read was the Canoe Trick mystery, Boxcar number 40. A woman named Angela tries to frighten the Boxcar Children out of going on a canoe trip with Aunt Jane, but they go anyway and encounter a mystery involving a riddle and a stolen coin collection. So the question for this one was, what was the exact moment in this book where you felt it really hooked you and made you want to keep reading? If you were bored or DNF'd, please share. This is actually a reread for me, and what made me want to reread it was the canoe. We went to the beach last Saturday, and I was in the mood for some watery exploits. So I decided to read the next 3 Boxcar books that day. They're short. Each audiobook comes with 3, so, okay. And it was fun. Then I read, what did I give this book? I forgot to write it down. Nice. Probably like 4 stars. I remember enjoying this the first time I read it. So, yeah. Then The Mystery of the Hidden Beach, Boxcar Children number 41. I gave this one 5 stars. This one was really interesting. This is also a reread, and I remember really enjoying it as a kid. The Aldens are spending a week at Camp Coral in Florida. They love studying fish, learning how to windsurf, and exploring the ocean. But then a portion of coral reef is destroyed. The Boxcar Children are determined to find the culprit. This is really interesting because I actually wrote some notes on this book because I'm kind of keeping track of significant events. And this is the first book where we meet cousin Joe and Alice's adopted daughter, Sue Lee. They adopted her from China, I think. And as a kid, I read them out of order because that's what was available to me in Braille and audio at the time. But I always wondered which book Sue Lee appears in, and if we would see them actually adopt her. We don't. She just appears at random in this book. So, okay. Fine, I guess. That sucks. I wanted a whole story behind Sue Lee. Anyway. I also wrote down that the Aldens don't seem to spend any time with any other kids, considering they're at camp for a week. Melanie, the events coordinator, is like their best friend that week, and she seems to pick favorites and take them everywhere, including her private beach, and like forget the other campers. That's wild. Like, and they also get their own cabins. Like, they don't even have to share with other people. Like, the boys get one, the girls get another one. You barely see any kids, and the kids you do see are terrible. So yeah, I thought that was funny, but I thought I remember this being one of my favorite books because it's a hidden beach, and because you learn a lot about the environment. I did not know that coral was such a thing. So question number 3 was, is this book your favorite genre, or is it something out of your comfort zone? Did it surprise you in any way? This is not my favorite genre, but these were the mysteries I read as a kid, or the ones I could get my hands on, and yeah. And I was more surprised that I forgot how it turned out, or who did it. So it was fun to reread. 5 stars. Then we have The Mystery of the Missing Cat, Boxcar Children number 42. I give this one 3 stars. Honestly, I'm going to stop reading Boxcar Children for right now. I'm going to take a break, because after I was looking ahead, and the next books are like this one, really boring, and because the ones that take place in Greenfield where they live are boring. I like the ones where they go somewhere, go on vacation or something. But, like, this one is about a neighbor's missing cat. I'm sorry, but I don't care. Yeah, when a neighbor's cat goes missing in Greenfield, the Boxcar Children are on the case. But with odd phone calls and look-alike cats turning up, there might be more going on than meets the eye. Can they find Spot C and get to the bottom of this mystery? Like, I truly don't care. And the question is, what's the first sentence of this book? Did it make you want to keep reading? Did the first paragraph want to make you keep reading? Here's a sentence. What are you two doing, Benny? Asked 10-year-old Violet Alden. She stood on the front steps. Actually, this is a paragraph. The front steps of the old white house, watching her 5-year-old brother, Benny, and her 7-year-old cousin, Sue Lee Alden. It's not compelling, but I'm reading it because I want to read them all in order. And I was just as bored as I thought it would be. So I went on to some morbid, well, not morbid, but like World War II historical fiction that is depressing. And yet it's one of my favorite genres. What's wrong with me? I decided to read the Wartime Evacuee series. I've had it on my list for a while. So each book is about a different evacuee and her mother, like their perspectives. So the first one is called A Child Far From Home by Lizzie Page. It's good if you read them together, but you don't have to. I read them in order, and I was glad I did, because you kind of see some events from each book overlap, and then some, you get explanations for why certain things happen. So this first one, I gave 3 stars, and I knew I wouldn't like it, because we have, all of these kids live in the same, like, kind of house before they're evacuated, so they're all kind of best friends. But like I said, each one is a story about a different girl and her mother. So in this one, we follow Jean and Valerie. Valerie is her 10-year-old daughter who gets evacuated out of London when the Blitz happened, and Jean is left behind. Jean is a single mother for reasons. We're not going to get into why, but Valerie it's very Gilmore Girls, the relationship. Valerie is the responsible, like, kind of good kid, and Jean is a little out there. She does try to follow the rules to take care of her kid, though, and she tries really hard, but once her kid leaves, she kind of goes off the rails a bit. And her kid is also with a very bad guardian that she gets evacuated with, and she doesn't tell her mother, and Jean makes some real bad decisions that just, it's I kind of knew just from the description that it was gonna be bad, but yeesh. Like, they're both likable people, but like, Jean just, oof, it was tough. So number 5 was a free space, and I just wrote, yikes, this mother makes terrible decisions. But it's one of those rare books where you see both sides of the evacuation situation. And I wrote down here that most stories where, like, you read about wartime evacuees, you don't see both sides. You see the kid, and this sounds really bad, but, like, the parents usually die so the kid can stay with the found family that you've grown attached to, which I'm, as bad as it is, I'm kind of okay with, because I like the new family, and I kind of want to forget the other one existed, because I love, like, the found family aspect so much. But that's just really messed up. And in reality, probably the real evacuation stories are like this one, where it's messy and people make bad decisions and relationships are bad because of the decisions made. And I wrote at the end of my notes, holy cow, the next kid we're going to read about is insufferable. Like, you already know from the descriptions that Valerie gives about this next girl that she's going to be a winner. So, which brings me to the next one, the Wartime Nursery. I gave this one 4 stars because I love the mom. In this one, we are in Norfolk. Well, and we read about Emmeline, and Emmeline is the mom, and Lydia is the daughter. And in this one, like, we see them all evacuated because, you know, they all evacuate together. And in this one, Lydia goes to live with this rich family, and this is a complete opposite of Valerie, because, like, she's instantly, like, she should have been a rich girl, and because of the evacuation, she becomes one, and this girl doesn't give a crap about her mother. Like, none of her family. The second she doesn't want to come back, ever. Like, she's too enraptured by the rich life she has to ever want, like, her old life. And then we have, what's the mom's name? Emmeline. Her husband wants her and her little boy, because she couldn't send her baby to be evacuated, I guess, to evacuate together, and they end up being sent to Norfolk to live with this other family. And she starts a wartime nursery for the moms, and, like, you read about how overwhelmed some of the moms are, and there's this one mom who has a total mental breakdown, which is what gets her to start this nursery. And so, like, you have this really inspiring woman doing really good work, and then you have her spoiled brat of a daughter. Like, I just want dresses and to be in pageants, and why are we helping people again? Like, this girl is a monster. And the crazy thing is, she doesn't even love the family that takes her and gets her rich, like, or gives her these nice things. She just thinks she deserves them. Like, this girl is a monster. She's horrific. And I guess they kind of redeem her at the end, but, like, I just don't feel it. Like, she's awful. But I guess that can also happen in evacuation situations. You're leaving, like, the quote-unquote slums of London and living in this grand estate, and do you really want to go back? No. Oof. But it's still bad. There's also infidelity. Honestly, there's infidelity in 2 of these books. Jean is also kind of doing her infidelity thing. And in this one, Emmeline kind of falls for the politician she's living with, billeting with, and it's a whole thing. But I love the nursery part of it, like the wartime nursery, and her friends, and, like, all the family she helps, and she really, like, fights for these kids, and it's amazing. So the question here was, what are the best things about this book? What did the author do really well? And I wrote, like, that I loved the way she wrote Emmeline. She's much more sympathetic than Jean from the last book. And we also see how dismissive people were of working mothers during that time. Although I could do without Emmeline crushing over the man that she's billeting with, like staying with. And, oh yeah, I also wrote that thankfully Lydia isn't in this book that much because she sucks. Valerie, like in the last book, Valerie, the girl, misses her mother and grows to resent her for, like, not intuitively knowing there was something wrong. But in this one, like, Lydia is instantly into the rich life and just doesn't give a crap about her mom. And, like, yeah. It's so wild. It's an interesting side of the evacuation situation, so 4 stars. And the last one is The Wartime Mother by Lizzie Page, 5 stars. We have our last girl. What's her name? I lost her name. What is this girl's name? She's a 10-year-old girl. I cannot... Francine, there you go. I had to, like, look down in the description. So, we know from the first book, because we see it kind of happen, because, Jean is, like, they all live in the same apartment complex at the beginning of the war, so we know that Francine's family dies in the Blitz. Jean, actually... Francine's family was one of those families who kind of got dumb and brought her back when they realized there were no bombs dropping for a while. And then they started dropping after. Like, a lot of people, like, just, well, not dumb. They got desperate to see their children and nothing was happening, so they brought them back, and mistake. So they brought Francine back, and she had the chicken pox, so she ended up staying with Jean, so that the other kids wouldn't get infected, and that's how she survived, and everybody else in her family dies. And Jean couldn't take care of her, so, you know, her own daughter was evacuated, Valerie. So she ends up going to live with this woman named Winnie, who works in a pub, and she has just lost her husband, and, you know, her friend thinks that taking on this orphan girl will help her heal, or at least distract her from being sad or whatever. She doesn't want to at first, and it's kind of a reluctant found family thing, and it's lovely. And you kind of bring all these stories together. Francine kind of brings the 3 girls together as adults, and you see kind of how their stories end up at the end, which was nice. I also found it interesting, Winnie's ending, because it wasn't exactly like they didn't end up just living together happily ever after. Winnie ended up on her own journey outside of taking care of Francine, and Francine ended up on a separate journey toward the end, so that was interesting. But yeah, I still liked it. It wasn't exactly the evacuee story that I'm used to, but none of these were, so I thought that was cool. So question 7 was, how long has this been on your TBR? How do you feel now you've read it? I've had this series on my TBR since February, well, the first one since this one since February 2025, but the other 2 came out in 2024, so I'm glad I finally completed it. It was fun. And I needed a little bit of lightness after the depressing, so let's do some cozy mystery. I read Live and Let Chai, Seaside Cafe Mystery number 1 by Brie Baker. I heard about these from Book Lover Amanda, and I forgot to put my rating down. I think I gave it some 5 stars. I'm not sure. How do I keep forgetting to put my ratings down? But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. So much so that I just knew I was just going to love this whole series. So I ended up returning my loan to the library and buying it and just finishing it and then buying the next one because it ended on a cliffhanger. I can tell, though, that Bree Baker is another pseudonym for Jacqueline Frost. Well, they're all pseudonyms, but I can tell because this author loves the words tummy, which I hate. You are a fully grown woman. Don't use the word tummy unless you're talking to a child, okay? Just don't do it. And cooed. The people are always cooing. Babies coo. Adults do not. Like, stop cooing and stop saying the word tummy. Other than that, I liked it. In this one, we have Everly in her new cafe. Everly Swan starts a cafe, a sweet tea cafe with food. Yeah, iced tea shop and cafe. Right on the beach. And then a curmudgeonly customer turns up dead, poisoned by her tea, and you see where it goes. And there is a hot, is it cop or detective? Helps who's in charge of the case and who's trying to tell her not to solve the case. It was fun. I liked the townspeople. I loved her great aunts. I loved all of it. Oh yeah, there's also the thing with cats. This author loves cats, and she's kind of trying to tame this rescue cat. So did the description live up to what was inside this book? Did it give too much away? And I think it did live up to it. It was your average cozy mystery. I don't think the description gave too much away. There was some twists I didn't see coming. So that was fun. And there was a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end, which didn't pan out anyway, but it made me read the next one. No good tea goes unpunished. Book 2. I gave this one 4 stars. That one I did write down. That one was okay. It wasn't... This one took place at a wedding. The groom of the wedding for her friend, like, dies, which is sort of sad, actually. But there were some funny lines in this one. What is the main character's talent, gift, or superpower? How do you think it would hold up in Miss America pageant? I just said Everly is a sleuth, but there is one character in this book whose talent is being really dumb. Yeah, okay, I did write a quote down. There's this one, like, reporter who gets caught with her, like, in a dangerous situation, so I'm just reading the quote. I let my mouth hang open. You willingly got in a car with someone you thought was a killer? Why not? He said. She's a girl. I didn't see how I could be in danger. Good job, I said flatly. How'd that work out for you? I mean, come on. You're a moron. But it was a great read. Then I did a reread of The Medallion by Kathy Kolke. I wanted to reread it for my birthday month. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. I forgot how much bad stuff happened in this book, but I still recommend it, which is the question. Who would you recommend this to? To every World War II historical fiction reader. I don't know. Krista, I gave it to her for her birthday from Books and Jams. She had like a Amazon wish list. That was my first time giving anyone anything off a wish list, so that was fun. Yeah. So this one is about 2 different families. We have Sophia Kuminga, 2 women, primarily, because we don't really see the husbands. Well, sort of. You see, okay. Sophia Kuminga is an English woman who married Janek from Poland, and she's in Poland during the war. He is an RAF pilot, so she's kind of stuck in Poland by herself. And kind of what she goes through. She has trouble staying pregnant, so she's hoping that this pregnancy lasts. And then we have Yitzhak and Rosa, who are the Jewish couple in this book, in Poland, and they're going through war stuff, essentially. Like, persecution, the ghetto, like, all of that stuff. They're trying to stay alive, and she gets pregnant, and Rosa, they have a little girl, and at some point Rosa has to decide whether to sneak her out of the ghetto and give her to a Christian family until after the war. Hence why it's called the medallion. She cuts the medallion in half, gives her daughter half, and keeps half, so that the two pieces will meet up after the war. And the hope is that they do. I'm not going to spoil anything in this book, but suffice to say, this is not as sappy as it sounds. There is a lot of death in this book. This ain't sappy, even though it sounds real sappy. So yeah, but I loved this book. It's one of my favorite World War II historical fiction books. And yeah, it makes you ask the question, what would you do in this situation? So the question for this book was, who would you recommend this book to? And yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone who loves World War II fiction. Krista from Books and Jams, Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails, Chloe from Always Booked, Book Lover Amanda, Alma's Book Journey. Who else? I'm trying to think of people who are super into this stuff. I know I'm missing one. I know Cat Stories has read some Sarah Sundin, so she might like this. Carmen Janae has read some Kathy Gulke, and From In Search of Wonder. Also, it's so funny. A lot of these people read Kathy Gulke and have never touched this, and I'm just like, you're killing me. I keep seeing Kathy Gulke everywhere, but no one ever touches this book. It's driving me batty. Next. The next book I read was Please Don't Hurt Me by Maggie Hartley. This is another fostering memoir. And the funny thing is that the question is, how did the book make you feel? The last time I read a fostering memoir, I got this question too, so it's funny. And this one made me feel pretty angry and sad, because it kind of focused on two different women. Well, one of them is a girl. This is primarily Kayla's story, and her mother, she ends up in foster care because her mother has some mental health issues and ends up in an inpatient facility. And during her time in foster care, she ends up with this boyfriend who's like a total stalker, and she tries to break up with him, and he keeps stalking her, and she ends up in danger because he won't go away. And then we have like a side story with the other baby that Maggie's fostering. Her mother is like in an abusive relationship, and she picked the guy over the baby. And like, you kind of see the psychological issues that this has, because at one point something really bad happens to the mom. She lives. Spoiler alert. I don't know anyone else who reads these, so I'm comfortable spoiling these books. So the mom does live, but she still picks him. And so baby Maisie ends up adopted by another couple. And it just, like, that's what I mean by, like, both situations made me angry. One, because the boy wouldn't stop stalking this teenage girl. And the other one, because, like, pick your baby, but at the same time it also made me sad, too. Like, man, it's sad. But it also made me happy to see, like, this adopted family kind of become a family. And so these books just have a lot of mixed feelings with them. But I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't one of my favorites. So, yeah. And then for Jeanette's reading challenge, which is a law enforcement officer and a title with capitals, I read Without a Trace, Rock Harbor #1 by Colleen Coble. I give this one 4 stars. Bree Nichols. I wouldn't call her like a law enforcement officer exactly, but she has like rescue dogs who help find people. And she does, the main thing is that her husband and son go missing in a plane crash, and she's trying to find them. I read the Annie Peterson series, and Bree and them kind of make appearances in that, and I realized that the Rock Harbor series came before the Annie Peterson book, so I kind of wanted to see that history unfold, so I'm reading those slowly. But this one did have capital letters, according to Jeanette, so I read it for that, even though it took place in fall and winter. And not a summer book, but it's okay. Just this once. I'm trying to read seasonally. I don't know why. But yeah, I enjoyed this book. It was good. And, you know, the only reason I give it 4 stars is because Naomi, it drives me crazy. Her friend Naomi, there's like 2 romances we have. Her romance, Bree's romance with Cade starting. I think he's a police officer or something. Yeah. And then we have Naomi has a romance with the single dad who the mother left him with the kids. And she is so desperate. It's like cringy. And his daughter knows it too. Like, it's just, and she admits she's desperate. Like, you know, she's like, I'm shooting my shot now. And like, the little girl is like, I know you're trying to get with my dad. And she's like, let's just work on being friends for now. And I'm like, don't gaslight this kid. Like, honestly, if, I don't know, it just bothered me. I don't like this romance. I think it happened organically and she wasn't trying to be so, I'm not saying she's a bad person. She's not like conniving in a bad way, but it just feels icky. Especially because the kid sees it and you're lying to this kid, like, to try to get in her good graces to get with her dad. It's just, I didn't like it. I don't know. But this question was, describe the setting of this book. Did you like it and would you want to go there? Yeah. I mean, I love, like, Rock Harbor in general. It's a nice setting on the water and the food sounds delicious. I guess it's a Finnish area. And they're always talking about pula, which is some kind of bread. And I want to try it. And the last book I read last night, just because I wanted to, like, complete the last question so I could do an update, was My Husband's Child by Lisa Timony, or Timony. I gave it some 5 stars. The author pronounces it, or the narrator in the audio pronounces it Timony. Anyway, this is a new author to me, but it's women's fiction, and I love these kind of stories. So in this one, I was confused at first, but because the description was a little confusing. But basically, we have a husband and a wife, and then 2 stepdaughters. So their mother dies, and the older daughter is taking care of the little sister. And she does not want to give the father and stepmother custody. She hates the stepmother because she feels like she broke up the marriage between her parents. And the mother had some drinking issues and stuff. So you're alternating between the daughter, or the stepdaughter, and the stepmother. And they both want this child to be with them. Maisie. Another Maisie. Weird. Maisie's 6, and she's kind of going between her big sister, which she lives with primarily, and her dad and stepmom. And the stepmom wants to adopt her, and she has some infertility issues, and so they're kind of fighting over this kid. And at first I was like, why are you fighting with her? Like, why doesn't the dad have her? But it becomes more clear as the book goes on why. It's not that he's a bad dad. But it was very, like, I loved both of these people. They're both flawed, and they both had mistaken opinions about the other one. I did like Kate, the stepmom, a little less, Katie, because, like, she was obsessed with wanting to adopt Maisie and make her, like, part of their family. And she, like, wanted, what was the daughter's name? The older sister. What is that girl's name? Olivia. So yeah, like, she's like, I understand why her and Olivia don't get along. Olivia hates her and stuff. And so, like, Katie wants Olivia to, like, be 22 and just want to be on her own and give Maisie to them to adopt. And I'm kind of like, maybe if you slowed your roll on the adoption thing, Olivia might have actually handed her over a little more willingly. You want to, like, just make it like it's not a big deal that she's adopted or whatever. I don't know, it just felt kind of icky a little bit. But things changed as the book went along, and there was some twists that I didn't see coming. And the end was sappy and lovely, and I gave it 5 stars. But, yeah, like, just her obsessing over adopting this kid. Like, you can be a stepmom without adopting her. But she was having her own infertility issues and wanted a kid. I don't know. It was a little weird that Olivia had her, but I also didn't want her taken away from her either. Because it felt like she just wanted a kid, and that's why she wanted her. So it felt a little selfish, too. Even though that's kind of where she should be. I don't know. But yeah, that was a great ending to the second week of Mood Reader. I'll see how far I get on my third week. I don't know if I'll answer all the questions or not in the third week. We'll see. But yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!
Speech on. Stop recording video. Button.